2, the understanding self and others.
Understanding. Well, one chapter
Is it
is
one?
chapter 4 is understanding self, and then the
Right.
chapter 2 is understanding others. You're choosing one of those.
Oh,
Which
okay.
one?
Understanding others.
Understanding others. So,
Yeah.
who makes up your group?
It's Nicola and LaShawn, and well, myself.
Okay, so I'd actually prefer
It's a group of 3.
a group of 3 tackling the DAF chapters.
Oh, okay.
So me and Alicia will do understanding self.
All right, so I can't see who's speaking. So
Keon.
Keon,
Yeah.
give me your surname, Keon.
Dabro.
Spell
DABREAU.
Yeah,
Mr. Ryan and I will do moral purpose.
Right, hold on. Let me finish with chapter 4 now. Chill out.
And Baptiste.
Baptiste, BAPTIST. All right. So that's yeah, what's your first name? K.
Yeah, Keon.
Keon, and Baptiste is A, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so go to chapter 2. Who's volunteering for that? This is now the first couple of chapters are the most simple chapters. Okay, so just to let you know.
Hey, Clint. Well, me and Clint could do chapter 2.
All right, so it's
I think it's
Clint. Clint, what is his name? Duke.
Duke, sir.
And who's the me?
Moriba.
Marie Brooks.
Yes.
All right. Okay, Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Ryan and Whitney will do it moral purpose.
Moral purpose. Ryan what?
Brian Payne and Paul. Mrs.
Whitney Paul, right?
Yes.
All right, great.
Presentation
for teams and groups.
Brittany Huggins and Stephanie Fraser.
Brittany Huggins.
And Stephanie Fraser.
Huggins and S. Fraser.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So first, all right. So chapter 7. Or I should say chapter presentation 3 relates to presentation 5 because they're both going to be dealing with moral purpose and moral functions and stuff like that. So, but it's going to be from 2 different perspectives. One from the exploring leadership, and this one from the DAFT. So you'll see some variations in the treatment there. All right. So who's looking at that? So you can. This chapter is fairly straightforward.
Rahamat Hills and Maturin.
Nicola, R.A. Raham, H.A.M.U. Right?
Tony.
Tony Hills it's Hills, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And L Maturin.
Okay, so L, help me with this. M-A-T.
M-A-T-I-E.
I-E.
R-R.
R-R.
I-E.
I-E.
Double N-E.
Okay, that's the name. All right.
Aruna Ali and Amanda Ramasa.
Amanda. It's not Amanda, it's Demanda.
Damanda, D.
Ram, O-U, how you spell that? Ramuta again?
U-T-A-R.
That's it? That's correct?
Yeah.
All right. Complex organizations.
Sir, I don't mind doing it. I don't have a group member though.
Who's you?
Sadiqa Mohammed.
S. Mohammed.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody willing to volunteer for her who's not already in a group? We still have some outstanding people, not so?
So Dion, I guess he can't speak on his thing, but he's asking if he can volunteer because I just read his message.
All right, okay. Dion did. All right, okay. All right, Dion, I'll put you with Sadiqa. All right. Dion. All right. So Ms. Mohammed, you have you all will probably need to begin to exchange contact information to start working on.
We started doing that.
I suspected as much. I know you all are proactive. All right, so presentation 8, 9, and 10. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15.
My group will go for presentation 9.
So whose group? Who group is that?
That's Keisha, Amory, and Nikisha.
All right. So Keisha, what is the name?
Keisha Jackson, sir.
Keisha Jackson.
Amory Ren.
Aaron.
And Nikisha. Nikisha is that last name, yeah?
Humphrey.
Humphrey. H-U-M-P-H-R-E-Y, right? That's correct, Nikisha?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. So we have 2 more presentations without people assigned to them. Presentation 8 and presentation 10. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I'm seeing that oh, come on. I'm seeing that we have everybody who's in class right now. The 18 people assigned. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 people were absent. So Rion has to get back to me about Miss Pagu is available, but she's having some issues with her work. All right. And then we have Miss Macmillan. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 people here. So that's actually 2 groups right there. Now, what can happen, and I've seen this happen before, is that people, when they're having issues, they drop out the class. All right. So we're still in add drop, so that presentation 8 and presentation 10 still have to be assigned, but I can leave this for now with the 18 here. And this is what can happen. When those other people turn up, we can assign them 2 by 2 into these 2 groups here. And I don't want to assign anybody without them approving of where they go. So I know I'm going to speak to one or both of them tonight after they come back from the other sessions and see what they're going to do. Now note the dates, guys, because those days you're locking yourself into a schedule now of presentations, and you have to be ready to present on those days. Now, how do we present? So the idea would be, now your presentation counts for 30%. Let's start with that activity one time. So that's assignment 1 technically. So that small group presentation counts for 30% of your final grade. And this is the criteria that I'm going to utilize when I'm marking this exercise. So while you're presenting, I'm going to mark you. So at the end of your presentations, I will be able to give you a score. So you're going to get almost instant feedback right after you have done your presentation. Now, my objective with this class is when you present, I want you to present an A-type presentation. So if for some reason there are problems, you'll know almost immediately what's going on. So the idea would be to try to set up a presentation that teaches us the content. Now, my best advice for you would be to choose the best lecturers you think you have ever had and pattern your presentations based upon them, so that they can kind of guide you into how to doing your presentations. Now, the first couple of presentations might be a little hesitant, so I tend to be a little more lenient there. But as we start to move down and the content becomes more involved, I would try to use the same criteria with you to give everybody a fair mark. The objective, the thing I would like to see everybody here do is that during your group presentations, you all score A's, because it's a good place to start, because it positions you in your very first assignment in from that group exercise to put you in a good position to move forward into the rest of the assignments that are going forward. Everybody's in agreement with that so far?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the pattern of the presentation would be that on your specific day, you will come in, you will take over the class. I will empower you on the system to share your screen like I'm sharing my screen, and you run a PowerPoint presentation, and you and your partners present the information, and you have to also entertain questions from the class. Now, because you'd realize that some of the group activities here allow for clarification of explanations. So if somebody's asking questions, it may mean that there's a problem with your clarity, or maybe they're just not getting it. So answering questions is going to be an important element of your thing. And of course, we're looking at the degree and quality of the class interaction with you as well. Now, that's going to be a little difficult because of the nature of what's going on. So what I would suggest is that you provide points during your presentation to allow for questions to be asked from your audience. And it is important, therefore, that the people who attend these sessions ask questions to elicit some kind of further clarification or explanation. So I will ask some questions if I find that certain elements of your explanations are lacking, but you don't want to be leaving any of the content out from the chapters as is required for the course. All right. So far, so everybody's kind of clear on the group activity.
Yes, sir.
That's one of the reasons why I am going to present first, to kind of give you an example of how things are going. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to post one of the presentations for you to look at on your own, and I will record a narration to go with it. And then the second one, I'll try to do a live session on the 29th. So our next class, live class, is going to be on the 29th of September. We're not necessarily going to meet. So that red one is going to be. But all of these from the 10th of October, the 13th, the 20th, all your presentations are going to be live sessions that we all must attend. Now you realize that this finishes in about 5 weeks' time, and therefore that by the 3rd of November we're finished with your first assignment. But we're going team by team. Now, if for some reason we have nobody to assign to presentation 8 and 10, what I will do is offer groups that have already presented to represent these 2 absent chapters, because, and again, remember I said the sequence is important. So presentation 9 cannot take place if presentation 8 is not done, because the information from chapter 13 impacts upon the information as is presented in chapter 12 and chapter 15 moving forward. Now, what that means is that a group or new configuration, it doesn't have to be the same group, it could be a new configuration of individuals, can tackle a second presentation, and those individuals can benefit from a second opportunity to present and allow for them to get an improved mark. So I'll take the better of the two grades or the better of the two scores from either of the presentations. That makes sense? Everybody understand?
Yes,
Right. So it means that some people can volunteer for a do-over. If I find, for example, that now because we have 4 people absent, technically the 4 people should take up these 2 sessions. So there's well, just to be, so in that event we can have this person and this person. Let's see if that works. Present here. Nope. Nope. This keep text only. What? Okay, let me undo that. Copy. Actually, maybe I should just assign them one time. Text only and this one here would be Miss Pagu. Copy. And Robert. Well, I know there's somebody else who's supposed to come in class because they're registering a bit late. All right, so if these people don't turn up, because that can happen. Sometimes people register for classes and never turn up for class, or they withdraw from the class, kind of leaving us hanging there. It means that those presentations can tentatively be so we'll have to watch these a little bit to see what's happening with them. Give that a darker color. Yeah. So we'll have to watch these here to see what's happening, and it could mean that if, like, let's say Miss Pagu makes it, but Roberts doesn't make it, then somebody else from a different group can join with Miss Pagu and try to present there, and that gives them an opportunity to improve their grade. While Miss Pagu would have to, well, we'll only have one opportunity to get there. So that's the kind of situation that we have here. All right, so that works there. All right, any questions about the group presentations thus far? I would also recommend that you set up a PowerPoint with the content. So the first thing you need to do is to read the relative chapters. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to be reading the other chapters, because to be able to contribute to the discussion, you need to be familiar with the content. And as I said, most of the chapters are available as audio books that you could listen to on YouTube. In fact, I think the entire textbook is available, but it's separated into chapter by chapter, read by somebody. Okay, any questions with this before we move on?
So do you have any special headings to like what to expect, or is it that when you read the chapter you'll know what to?
When you go to the chapter, the content is sequent. As with any book, the book is written in a very logical format. And I would suggest to you that you follow the layout of the chapter, because if people were reading it, the ideas are developed in a sequence throughout each chapter, and then each chapter is then connected with previous content from the previous chapters and so on. That's why the order of presentations is important. So yes, I would suggest that you follow the order that the chapter presented the work in. All right?
And one last thing, all the ones that you did not highlight it is from the first book, right?
Correct. From the Exploring Leadership. All of those that are yellow highlighted are from the DAFT, which is the second textbook. So you're seeing chapter 5, there's one from the DAFT here, and then we go back to the Exploring Leadership, and then we finish off with the DAFT for the last 3 presentations. So that's where the 2 textbooks come hand in hand with each other. All right. So all of these sessions here, as we said, they're live sessions. You can, I was asked to provide an opportunity for you guys to record the session and upload it. The problem with it is that the recordings tend to be very large, and they can't fit on the eClassroom space. So you'd have to post it to a YouTube channel and then make a link. And I think I prefer, let me do that. Let me deal with the headache of that, of uploading it to a channel and that kind of stuff, rather than you all struggling with all of that. So I think we'd be more comfortable doing live presentations. I'll record them, and I'll split them up into two separate recordings, so I can separate the thing. Sort of like how I broke the recording today by stopping and then starting back. What is going to automatically happen is that once you present in this format, it automatically saves to the Google Drive, so that the recording is stored there, and then you could download it from there, or I can even link it to you there. But the space on the Google Drive is pretty small, so I wanted to remove it from the drive and locate it somewhere else. I have a YouTube channel that I can load there and then put a link in for people to go on taking presentations from students. The idea is, guys, have fun, be creative in your presentations. Don't get bogged down with a lot of the things that happens. Find little video clips that you could run in your presentation that might be able to add value to your presentations. That will make it a little more understanding and a little more entertaining, because again, these sessions are a little rough, because they can be a little mentally taxing. So far so good. So the idea is to be as creative as possible while trying to be clear with your explanations of the content. So far so good.
Yes, sir. So does that have time, like how long each presentation?
Well, I've tried to ask people to stay within about half an hour. The problem with it is, as we start to move down through the different chapters, some chapters are much longer than other chapters. So for example, being in communities and complex organizations, those are pretty long chapters. But I would say try to hold your presentations to about 30 to 45 minutes maximum. If you can, as much as the content allows it. I know some of the DAFT chapters are pretty long as well, so they can take a little while to go through all that content. Plus, they're quite heavy, so sometimes the explanations has to be a little more detailed to be able to get some understanding. And it's important that you clearly understand the content before you try to teach it to somebody. So reading it once is not good enough. You have to read it and work out, how do I explain this to somebody else? That is going to be the challenge that you face, which is what faces all of us as teachers. Yes, go ahead.
So someone is asking if the both parties have to present.
Yes, everybody must present. There's no one person just changing slides and next person presenting. No, everybody must present. The groups are too small for it to be otherwise. You follow what I mean?
So we can go basically half.
You can split it up any way you decide. I've had students who presented on a tag team basis. So they take different sections of the same chapter and they tag team their way through it, supporting each other's points with examples. I had one group present where one person presented the content, the other person presented examples from life experiences, which brought a great deal of balance. So one dealt with theory, the other dealt with application. These patterns and strategies that you can utilize are countless, and left totally up to your imagination. How do you like your classes to run? Just straight theory running all the time, or you like to get some practical examples of things? Especially in social sciences, it's always good, I find, to bring real world examples to bear in the classroom explanations, because it means more and the participants can better understand it, especially if they're using experiences that might have commonality with other people in the classroom. That makes sense? You can also try to apply some of the things that you're presenting to your own classrooms or disciplines that you're studying. That could also make connections in that sense as well. So far, so good?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Go ahead. Any other questions anybody wants to ask about the group presentations, at least? All right. I'm checking the comments to make sure. All right. So Alicia was asking the same question about whether both parties have to present. Yes, both parties have to. The groups are too small for otherwise. It'll just burden one individual with too much explaining and too much development. All right. Okay.
So, quick question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, seeing like how our group have 3, right? And we decide to split it up. Just as how you had given the example with one doing theory, one probably might do like an anime or something to help, give the information or to share the information. Is it that we can do it like we will each have to take turns sharing our screen with the content to present to the class?
No, you can organize in such a way that one person from the group is given control of the screen. They are presenting from their laptop, while the other, so that one person can move the slides forward.
Okay.
But
and
other
the 3
people,
of us discuss.
right, and
our
all
parts.
3 discuss the various areas that you decide that you're going to present. Yeah.
Awesome. And so one more question. That document there with the chapters that we have to present on, is that going to be shared in the e-classroom so that we
Yes.
could...
Remember,
thank you, sir.
right. So remember I showed you in the e-classroom, this slot here, finalize course schedule and assignment details. It's going to come in as a file download here. You follow? So that's why we have to finalize it tonight, and I'll upload it here.
Thank you.
Cool, no problem. Logical questions, very good. All right, anybody else has any further questions they want to ask? Ask now. Well, when I set up the chat, you can also ask in the chat as well, the WhatsApp chat as well. Okay? So far, so good? All right, so let's move on to the other assignments and we'll start to see what's happening. So those are the presentations. This is the guidelines here for the group presentations. Now, assignment 2 has to do with a debate, but I'll come back to that last because that actually is scheduled for the almost the end of the semester. All right, in terms of another exercise. Now, the debate exercise is a large group exercise, and that is a live exercise that I've scheduled here now for, let me put that in red as well, for the 8th of December. That is the last teaching week of the academic calendar. Now, for those of you who have not really paid attention, this semester the academic calendar is 13 weeks long, because we lost a couple weeks at the beginning because we were supposed to start back classes from the 2nd of September, but we didn't. We had to delay based upon the COVID restrictions that came into place. So that's how we ended up starting from the 14th. So we lost 2 weeks there. All right. So we are down to 13 weeks, and the 14th week is supposed to be the examinations week. So I want to keep the debate activity outside examinations week, because I don't know how other classes are treating with exams in their sections. Now, if everybody's gone online, a face-to-face exam is going to be an extremely difficult thing to organize. I suspect that most, if not all of the classes, I know in my case, all my classes is only continuous assessment. But I know some subjects don't lend themselves to continuous assessment as the key means of evaluation. So we're gonna have to pay attention to that. So I kind of want to stay clear of that week of exams so that I don't put anybody into any difficulties. All right, does that sound feasible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the gap between the 3rd of November and the debate exercise on the 8th of December means that we have roughly about a month to prepare for the debate. So we're going to have 1 or 2 sessions in between that, between there, to be able to put together the debate activities. Now, the debate activities, we have to debate 2 out of these 3 topics. Leaders are born, not made. Men make better leaders than women, and transformational leaders are more effective than transactional leaders. So at an appropriate time, I don't want you to focus on this yet, but at an appropriate time, I'll start to disseminate a host of information as to how this is going to be administered. So suffice it to say that there will be 3 teams. There will be a team arguing for, there will be a team arguing against, and there will be a team moderating the exercise. All right. Now, for those of you who have done debates with me in the past, you are accustomed to that and maybe familiar with the exercise that we're looking at. And if you've had prior experience, then I could ask those people from class to probably be taking on the role of moderating as opposed to the actual debate, and leave the well, it's up to, again, the choice is yours in terms of which teams you want to be in. But we're going to be debating 2 sets of things. There are a whole set of documents that have to be developed, and that means the space between, as I said before, between the end of presentations and the debate itself will be utilized by the arrangements that we're putting together that are necessary for this. Now, there is a midterm. Now, the debate is 15%. All right, so that's another assessment point. There's a midterm exercise, and I'm calling an exercise. It used to be an exam, and that is scheduled here for the 17th of November. Now, that is after. Now, the only way you can do the midterm is after we deal with the content. All right, and that is going to take the place of 4 compulsory short response questions. It's not going to be completed in an exam format. It's going to be completed in an assignment format. All right, but you will only have you'll only have 1 week for this activity. So I will put up the questions, and you will have a week to write your response to that and submit it. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So it's usually we had an exam, but I really the way the questions are asked, it's more reflective in nature. So you're going to be reflecting on your experience with certain things. The questions actually will center around ethics, group work, and the leadership model that we're looking at. Okay, so you'll see the questions, but don't panic. Again, the first thing is once we complete all the presentations, you'll have all the data and information to use in the to be able to handle that story there. Okay, so this is a 20% exercise. Now there's one here. Assessment 4 is a self-analysis, and this is one that you could probably start working on almost immediately. But I've set up the submission deadline for that as the 24th of December. That and the last one as well. Midnight on the 24th of December. Now you can get it done prior, but this is a fairly long assessment, and it starts with you reflecting on who you are as a person and as an individual. And it starts with you tracking or tracing your family history, your customs and traditions, and how those things have influenced. So basically, you're writing an autobiography of yourself, but rather than it being, more of a sequential compilation of your life's history, we're looking at it being more of an analytical reflection of you, and trying to look at going backwards and evaluating the person that you are today and how you've arrived in this place, based upon the influences of your past. Now, for some people, well, for most people, this is a challenging exercise. So I'll ask you all to look at these questions here. Are going to you use them to guide your discussion, but it's one that you can get started with. But as we go through different sections of the course, so for example, Unit 1, Understanding Self, and Unit 2, Presentation 2, Understanding Others, actually can impact upon this, because I have some tools that you can use. See here where we have the personality test questionnaire. This is there for you to utilize on yourselves and interpret your own personalities and so on, so that you can evaluate yourself and try to work out who you are from a more critical point of view, to be very analytical in terms of what you're doing about who you are as opposed to who you think you are, because there's a big difference. Our self-perception is reflected in a manner where a lot of times we think we look one way to people, but other people perceive us differently to what we think we are, and usually we are our own worst critics, and that kind of is something that is common among most of us, with most humans. In our experience, we think the worst of ourselves, whereas other people wish they could be us. Interestingly enough, that's quite an interesting phenomenon that takes place. So the personality test questionnaire is 70 questions that you could go through, answer, and look at the result, the test interpretation, and the way in which it's interpreted, to be able to analyze who you are as an individual. And when we get to that stage, because one of the presentations, Understanding Others, I believe, tackles or touches on this personality test. At least there are various versions. There's one called the 16 personalities. There's a link to it that I'm hoping the group that is presenting will bring it up in their presentation. I don't want to put everything here and take away the opportunities for you all to do your own research and bring things to bear. Some of you who may have done Introduction to Sociology or Psychology may have come across the Myers-Briggs personality test. Anybody's familiar with that? No?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, you're going to become familiar with it now. All right. All right. So coming back to that. So this self-analysis is a 20% exercise, but it is a fair amount of work, and it's something you can start to think about now. And begin the process of writing. I don't expect that you should be sitting down and writing this in a rush coming out to the end of the semester. You should be tackling this all the way through the class. As we deal with the chapters, you can start to reflect more deeply in terms of these questions here. And then, of course, there's a marking criteria here that you would see. You may need to do citation depending upon what you've utilized, if anything at all. Now, it's kind of difficult to have to do citation for something that is about you. So there's no heavy emphasis on citation because unless you're using external sources of information, which I hope you're not, then you're really writing about you and your life. So there should be very limited need for citation. But if you do quote, sometimes a nice quotation expresses your ideas better than you can, or you think better than what you can say. Yes, then definitely you would need to provide citation for the source of that quotation and so on. But I don't expect that there will be a large quantity of citation necessary in this document. In the midterms, you might require some citation because the questions are specific to certain chapters in the textbook. All right, so you might require citation for that, but you'll be citing the main textbooks. All right. Okay, so that brings us now to assessment 5, and the first part of that question here, you should probably try to respond to this within the next week. As you commence this course, reflect on your expectations of the course, your lecturer, and yourself. This is a question that you need to answer now and store it away. So you need to start this assignment, like as soon as we finish class, sit down and just answer that question. Some of it I already asked at the beginning when I asked you what you thought this class was going to be about. And so the idea is when you get to the end of the course, you have to review that expectation. So the best way to tackle this is to write your expectations now and store it somewhere. And then as we go through the course, you can start. Now you realize that you can't really start to answer this question too well until we've dealt with the content. Describe what you've learned about yourself during the semester. So this is a reflection in hindsight. After we've done what we've done, you're going to have to respond to these questions. Reflect on what you see as your leadership strengths and weaknesses and how you would take advantage of both in the future. Again, you can't do that until you start to do the self-analysis of who am I or who are you as a leader, and what are my strengths and what are your weaknesses, and how do I take advantage of those strengths and mitigate against the weaknesses that I might have. So those are the things you want to do. And describe the leadership philosophy that you've developed throughout the class. Again, these questions are more summative in nature. They are going to be pushing you towards that behavioral modification that we spoke about at the beginning of the class, where the class is trying to assess or trying to push you towards modifying your behavior in the context of leadership and ethical behavior, so that we're trying to mitigate change, or we're trying to institute change in individuals when it comes to leadership. All right, and again, of course, this is question 6 here. How has it changed from the beginning of the semester? And then identify your leadership style and describe 2 action steps that you can take to continue to develop your leadership style. So the first thing you need to do is answer question 1 now and save it on a file somewhere and leave it. All right. And excuse me. And below here is a marking scheme for that. And these are all of the assignments. Again, this one has a delivery date of I am tentatively saying the 24th of December. Now, I have put here the grade input deadline, so I can shift this if you find Christmas Eve might be too much of a hectic time for you to submit an assignment. But remember, by the 8th of December, we should be completed with all of the exercises. Some parts of this you can only write up after we finish all of the exercises. And I mean, I'm being honest with you here. Some of the things will work best only if you write up your final reflections at the end of after we finish everything and we've completed our course, because it wouldn't have the same impact if you try writing it now, because you don't know where you would be by the end of the semester in relation to your concepts and ideas and attitudes towards the topics that we're going to treat with. Like, for instance, how Mr. Diablo has this both him and Ms. Batiste have the great aversion against group work. And I don't blame them, because I have found that in COSTAT, group work has not been managed well by faculty at all. It's just like, you need to do group work, suck it up and do it. And that's not good enough. From my perspective, group work needs more management, because it is one that is fraught with a lot of conflict and a lot of possibilities of conflict leading into failure. And that's dangerous. And I've seen it happen in my earlier days, where left on their own, students don't treat with group work very well. And they kind of leave everything for last minute. Procrastination is a hell of a thing. So let's deal with the deadlines of the 24th of December. Do you think you'd like to change that date to something a little more relaxed? Questions? Now is the time to answer. So if you want, we could move it down a little bit or back a little bit. Is there anybody here?
So Boxing Day?
Really? Boxing Day?
Well, so on the 27th.
The 27th, a couple of days after Christmas?
Yeah.
All right, how many people want to support that? No, it doesn't mean you can't get it done before and get it in, huh? Yeah, but you have to be realistic. That means I have 1, 2, 3, 4. You saw the deadline for me putting in grades, right? Final grades.
Yeah, the 3rd of January.
Right, so you have to give me some time to be able to. So if the closer to the end of the year that we go, I could say, because I have 3 of these classes, which means this is a lot of reading for me, because I have to read everybody's assessments. I think you can get your self-analysis in way before the end of December, because that's something, as I said, if you look at the question, whoops, I'm going the wrong direction. If you look at the questions, this is stuff that is going to be evaluating your past. So you can knock that out a little bit earlier. But I want to give a final deadline to get everything in one time. So the suggestion right now is we move this to what? The 27th of December. What is that going to be? October, November, December. 27th is a Sunday. That's not bad, you know. It gives me a couple days to mark and then load. How about the 27th, which is the Sunday after Christmas?
So I'm fine with that.
Right. Anybody else? Because I know, well, I have no clue what Christmas is going to be like this time around.
Probably non-existent.
Nah, I'm pretty certain you can have your own family celebrations. Ryan?
Yeah, I'm cool for the 27th.
All right. And as I was saying, if you can get it done before, all well and good. No
Yeah,
problem.
definitely aim
All
for
right.
before.
But by the 27th, I want everybody's in. So that now again, you're submitting these documents online, so in the e-classroom. So you have to be able to. One of the things I also provided in this sheet here are my email addresses. I've set up 3 email addresses for you to send your stuff in if at any point in time Costats websites go down. You have my Gmail account to send that in as well. It's a fail safe in the event that something goes wrong. And you know Murphy's law, things can go wrong. When they go wrong, they always go wrong badly. All right. With the load that the e-classroom is getting now, I'm hoping that the servers don't freak out with the amount of assessments and assignments coming in. That is something that we have to look out for because usage on the online platform has increased by a lot. Almost, as I said, every class is going online, if not fully online. Most of the classes are going partially online to facilitate this change in activities that's going on. All right, so we're in agreement by shifting it to the 27th, which is the Sunday after Christmas. That's a good deadline. I'll extend that to the other classes that I have as well. It puts a little pressure on me to get all the grading done between the 27th and the 3rd to upload grades in the system. But hey, that's why I guess they don't pay me much for. All right, so I usually love reading these assignments because if you do them well, they're quite challenging to read in some instances because people, when they reflect about themselves, if they take the exercises seriously, this can be an extremely meaningful exercise for all of you. And I would encourage you to take these reflective exercises meaningfully.
So we also have a lot of people who can't really sit and talk about themselves also.
Right, and this is one of the reasons why writing about it gives you an option to. Now, one of the things I have to promise you is that there's absolute confidentiality with all your documents. I have never shared any of my students' assignments in these subjects with anybody else. I've never done it. And that is primarily because when you're reflecting on things of this nature, it tends to be very personal. And as a result, it is not something that I would risk giving to somebody else to read at all. So in a lot of instances, I only keep it for a little while and then I delete them from my system because I don't want I keep them because sometimes somebody might query their marks and that kind of stuff, and I'd be able to evaluate and indicate to them why they got the grade that they did get. But the whole idea behind it is that I really want you all to take the exercises seriously and feel safe that if you write something that is highly personal, that you will not be, punished by it, or there's no vindictiveness, or there's no risk of it being shared with other people. I just want to promise you absolute confidentiality when it comes to anything that occurs in this classroom space. Because one of the things we have to do is we have to disarm ourselves in this classroom to be able to rebuild. So in a lot of instances, doing this class is going to be a painful exercise. It's not, I'm going to say this, this is a class unlike any other class you've ever done, because when we go through the material and if you take the assignments seriously and the activities seriously, you will deconstruct yourself. And it's a painful process to deconstruct yourself and rebuild yourself again. This time, hopefully stronger and better, because you really have to look at yourself under a microscope to be able to do the kind of analysis we're talking about here. And it can only pay dividends if you pay attention and you are honest with how you deal with it. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so anybody else has any suggestions that they would like to discuss or suggest? Just checking to see if anybody else has messaged me about anything. All right, not from this class. All right. All right. Anybody has any suggestions or questions they want to ask for clarification on the assignments or the deadlines? Anything? Any question that you want to do?
So will a rubric be the assignment?
Okay, Mr. Brooks, hold on. Stephanie, what was the question?
A rubric for the assignments for us to get a guideline on what.
Well, what I do have a bit of a rubric there already. You see the breakdown of the marks here. This is the marking. I don't know if I want to. You see, the problem is, all right, what is your family history? Let's take that simple question. So if I write a rubric and I say in the rubric that as an excellent response, the student has given an excellent breakdown of all of their family and backgrounds going back as far as so. That's a good. But what about with a student who doesn't have that type of family background? Maybe they were orphaned.
Yeah.
You understand? So writing a rubric for some of these questions, because of the nature of the questions, the area that I can write a rubric for is the area on this side, which has to do with the organization of the document and the use of language. But in terms of the actual content, which is 40% of the marks here, writing a rubric for how you respond to the question really has to do with how much depth you've gone into in terms of explaining, but each circumstance is different. So for example, I've had somebody who, without being very specific, they did not have a family history because their parents sort of abandoned them. And as a result, they never developed family traditions and customs until they started their own family. So whereas one person might have a very deep and extensive family background, other people may not. And that therefore, how do I mark them badly? And yeah, that kind of stuff. How do I do that? So what I'm hoping you would do is you will look at how I've laid out the marking scheme. All right. This area is easy for me to do this rubric thing here, but this area, but you'd see it's asking for a pattern, an introduction, and a conclusion. So although you're answering questions 1 through 6, you still expect an introduction and a conclusion. It's sort of like following that scheme all the way through. So it's also looking at the structure, which really looks at in terms of how you're developing your document and that type of stuff. All right.
Yeah, and you didn't assign any word limits for the rest of the assignments as well?
There are no word limits to any of the assignments because, as I said again, if you want to write a novel about yourself, I can't stop. And in fact, I would encourage you to reflect extensively and deeply. Because the more I really cannot put a word limit on anything, especially assessment 4 and assessment 5, because your depth of analysis is going to be really dependent on how much time and effort you put into that. And it's usually plainly obvious when I read these things. That's why I take the time and I read them, because I know people have kind of put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. But I can tell from reading some people who just, this rubbish, I just, doing whatever, just answer the question. I can tell from the quality of the responses. Again, the same marking scheme structure here for the reflections, and then there's a marking scheme. There's a marking scheme for the group presentation. Again, what I'm looking for is maximum coverage of the content, how you've used your examples in the explanation, how clear those examples are, how clear your explanations are, whatever recommendations that you make, using a conclusion, meaning that as with any presentation, there must be an introduction and there must be a conclusion. Then we're evaluating your style of delivery, the quality and degree, the amount of class interaction that you've been able to encourage, how you've used your presentation aids, in this case, how well you've used your voice, your image, and your presentation aid, be it the videos that you use, the PowerPoint presentation, that kind of stuff, and how well you've managed your time, and of course, citation, because in presenting something of this nature, there is a certain amount of citation that will be required. Okay. All right. The debate is a freewheeling exercise. Stephanie, you've been in a debate with me before, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I might ask you to be a moderator this time. What role did you take in the last one?
I was one of the teams. I think I was against.
All right. So this time around, I might ask you to because you've had that prior experience with me in particular, to be one of the moderators. But again, I'll still leave it the choice up to you guys after we finish the content elements, and then we'll start to reconstitute new teams. And,
okay.
So we go from small teams to larger teams or larger groups, and the activity changes there. All right. The mid-semester exercise is an individual exercise, but it's the form of compulsory questions. So you're responding, and that is straight. It's going to come. The question is going to come straight from the text. So the only thing I'm looking for there is going to be citation, and that document that has it has a marking scheme on it as well. Same in the same effort as the others. So it's fairly clear how that is going to be evaluated. All right. All right. Any further questions?
Yes. So one quick question. With respect to the self-analysis, Rensu.
Right. I'm not seeing
with respect to the self-analysis, question one, which is, what is your family history?
Yes.
So that is so broad. Is it? I just want a direction as to how to tackle that question, because to me it sounds like a broad statement.
It is.
So
It is like a very broad statement.
Very broad. So
right. It's broad to give you the option to be able to respond to it in a manner that you feel satisfies yourself. You remember the assignment is being marked, but the assignment is not in essence an exercise in marking. It's about self-reflection, which is why the assignment is asking you. In other words, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put a mark on something that is who you are and how you've arrived at who you are. So, all right, so let me give you my story. The people who, in terms of my history and my development, when I think of my family, I go back to my grandparents, because my grandparents on my mother's side, who I call my nanny and my nana. Why? Because when I first migrated from England and started to really become aware of who I was as a person, I lived at my grandparents' house in Sandy Grande. And the experiences that I had with them as individuals who were leaders in my household, my mom and my dad were also there, but we were living in their home. and the experience with them and what they did and the culture that I've learned from them has influenced the pattern of my own behavior to being the person I am today. So it's not only going to be my grandparents, but also some of the more important people in my life, besides my mom and my dad. My mom more so than my dad, but my dad later on in my life became a more pivotal role. Were some of the teachers that I experienced through my lifetime. So I still have very good relationships with some of my teachers from my secondary school. I didn't have that kind of relationship at the university. I didn't come across many lecturers who touched me and shaped me to be the individual that I am, that I patterned myself after. But you have to remember that for everybody, their life history is going to be different. All right, because my journey starts from leaving England, which was a traumatic experience, and coming to live in Trinidad, and then having to adapt to living in England, living in Trinidad with a rank English accent and getting mocked by everybody all over the place. So it, it was it was an experience that helps to shape the individual that you become later on in life. So when you're writing about it, you can go as far back as you feel is necessary to talk about those people in your family history who are significant to you. Some people went as far back as their great grands. Some other people start with just their mom or just themselves. It depends upon your life and how you have become the individual you are today based upon the experiences of your life. And only you will know that, nobody else. That's why I said citation for that exercise is, there's no real big need for it, because how do you cite yourself? You can't. Okay. Does that help, Anne, in explaining that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right. I'm
Right.
hoping
So,
that
hello.
yes,
Earlier
Mr.
on, you
Brooks.
stated that they earlier on you stated that I think that there's a video with regards to the first assessment of a like an example.
Video of the first assessment.
Yeah, I think you stated that you did a video as an example, I think.
No. I'm presenting chapters 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm going to do is that I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to present part of my presentation. I will present as a video presentation online and post it for you all to go through on your own. So what I'll do is I'll design a PowerPoint and I'll do a voiceover to it and upload it for you all to look at. And then on the 29th of September, we will meet and complete chapters 1 to 3. You follow me? So there will be an example, or I can load 2 videos with the entire presentation, and then on the 28th we come together and we I think that might be the better thing. I load the entire presentation up maybe in 2 parts, because chapters 1 to 3 is long. I usually take about 2 to 3 sessions to present all the content from those 3 because that's part 1 of the book, or unit 1 of the entire book. 3 chapters, because it lays the foundation for the entire model that we are going to be looking at, and I have to put it in the context of how it's going to be done. So I'm going to be an example to you of how to design and how to lay out your presentation and how to work it through. So I'm hoping that they are useful, and the idea of meeting on the 29th is to kind of go through make sure you go through the presentations, reflect on them, and then when we meet on the 29th, we might just meet for about an hour and a half, and go through any kind of questions that people might have about the content that we dealt with, that I dealt with in the presentation, and then tackle any sort of questions that the groups may be having in getting prepared to start their presentations from the following week. That makes sense, Mr. Brooks? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Things you want to ask about? assessment wise or whatever?
Listen, I think you have everything covered.
All right. So just to kind of surmise, what we've decided is we've lost some people along the way, it looks like. We've decided to make a small change to the schedule. We've assigned groups with 2 groups still kind of outstanding because they're not available at the moment. Please take note of the dates for the presentation. I will upload this document online. All of the red, I'll put a key in. All of the red dates are proposed online sessions. So you'd see there are a good couple of, as I said, 5 to 6 weeks of fully online. So I will try to do one online out of the next 2 weeks. So we're not looking at meeting next week, but the week after on the 29th. And then from there, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions. And then we pause again but we may have to meet sometime in November to finalize our arrangements for the debate exercise. In the meantime, the midterm will come up, and we made the adjustment to the submission of the self-analysis and leadership plan to the 27th of December, midnight. Now, the system doesn't allow us to set midnight at 11:59. It allows us to set it at 11:55. For some reason, it runs in increments of 5 minutes at a time. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to work with that time frame. Of course, just between you and me, if you miss the 27th and you give it to me on the Monday 28th, because it's a couple of, I'm not going to kill you over that. I'm not in the business of killing people and stressing them out unnecessarily. But just try and remember, I have a deadline to meet as well, which is roughly about 5 days later to put your grades in. And then if I don't, then I get into trouble. So let's be respectful of everybody's requirements across the board. All right. So with that, I can say we've more or less come to the end of what we can do here tonight. If there are no more questions that you want to pose or concerns that you have, I'd like to say thanks for coming. Hi, Clinton. Clint, you're coming back in again. I'd say thanks for coming, and look out for the information coming up on the e-classroom. I will set up the WhatsApp group, so if you're having challenges and you have my phone number, for those of you who don't have it, take note of it. It's 680-6444. You can contact me via WhatsApp, or you can call me directly, or you could text me. It doesn't matter. I will try and communicate with you to let you know what's going on. But I will upload the course schedule as a revised, so that we can we'll have a common documents to work with. All right. So if there are no other questions, I'd like to say good night to everybody. It's now about 7:30. I think we've been here from 5 to 7:30. That's a good time frame. Yes, Ryan.
Well, I just wanted to say good night to you, sir, and everybody else as well.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. So
have a good night, everybody.
All right. Good night. I'm shutting down the recording now, too.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.